From Los Angeles, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Puck Podcast. It is Sunday, July 13th, 2025. This is our first period of a three-period podcast. First period, which some of you are watching on YouTube, will cover all the major news from the past week in the NHL. Our second period is our interview or special feature segment. Doug and I will continue looking at random NHL teams and what their rosters would look like if they were made up only of players that have been drafted by the team and are still active in the NHL. And in our third period, it's our fan feedback segment where we read listener emails. We've got our off-ice report talking about what's going on in our lives. You can catch all three periods of the podcast by searching on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, Puck Podcast. And if you like what you're seeing, please subscribe and get notified when our latest YouTube shows are out.
The Puck Podcast is the original hockey podcast launching in 2006. And Eddie and I have posted at least one episode per week, every week since then. A streak of 19 years and counting. Every week we start by talking about all 32 teams, whatever the news is, whatever the big story is, that is where we start. And we cover all the league entirely, so nobody is left out, no story is left uncovered. And for the start of this week's show, I turn it over to my good friend and my co-host, Eddie Garcia.
Thank you, Doug Stolhand. And I guess the big news in the NHL this week was the NHL and the NHLPA ratifying the new collective bargaining agreement. So the new 4-year deal will officially go into effect after this coming season. There were a lot of details that came out about the new CBA. I don't know that a lot of it is too interesting to get into. Maybe if there was anything specific that you saw about the details of it, and wanted to discuss or get into, we could certainly do that. Probably, again, the biggest thing that came out of it is, to me, that we will, in fact, have teams being salary cap compliant in the playoffs for the next season, not this season, but the following season. That was, to me, the biggest change. And also, I thought what was interesting about that was that they didn't really give us any indication that they were going to make that change. All of the talk was that it wasn't something that they considered to be a major issue. And it led me to believe that it wasn't something that was going to be addressed in the latest CBA, but it was. And it certainly makes me wonder what other things they're telling us now are not a big deal that may be addressed. And the thing that I keep thinking about is the state income tax issue. Maybe they want to see 4 more years of, are we going to continue to see Florida teams win, or Vegas, or the teams that don't have the state income tax? And maybe they start to come around to thinking that's a bigger deal than it really is. And maybe they're thinking about addressing that. I don't know, but it seems like everything they say now is that it's not a big deal. It's nothing that needs to be addressed, and nothing needs to be changed. But they were saying that about the long-term injury reserve as well. So I don't know, just get me thinking a little bit about down the road. But the CBA again is ratified. It is official. After this season, 4 years of labor peace, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, so we've got 5 years total of labor peace because we have the last year of the current deal and then the 4-year extension that they just ratified and agreed to. And I would be interested in knowing which side brought up the cap compliance in the playoffs. Was it the league or was it the Players Association? Because that would be, as you said, the league has always told us it's not a big deal, but Gary Bettman is a lawyer. He's never going to say, boy, this is a real problem, we got to address it, because one, that tips his hand that they're not happy with the way the league is being run right now. It kind of indicates that they think teams are getting away with something when they win with salaries that are way over the salary cap in the playoffs. So he's not going to say that. Of course, everything is always, have you ever heard him say, we really need to address this? This is a big problem. The only time he did was when he was going to bat for the owners and saying we need to get 50% of revenue in the owners' pockets, and the salary cap has to be in place to preserve that. So he's done the owners' bidding on a regular basis for over 30 years now. But I would be interested to see how that came up. And my understanding is it is and it isn't salary cap compliant. You can have a roster that is wildly over the salary cap, but the team that takes the ice has to be salary cap compliant. So meaning you could have healthy scratches that put you $5, $10, $20 million over the salary cap, but they would have to if you're going to rotate one of them in, you have to take that many dollars off the ice as well. So it at least makes it so that the team on the ice, which is not what we've seen in the past, is salary cap compliant. And now it comes down to who can build the actual best team within the salary cap, and that's fun to see. I'm excited for that. That's a year away, though. We have one more year of exploitation, and we will see if any teams take advantage of the long-term injured reserve at the deadline and keep that player out until game one of the playoffs or just after the playoffs begin. You and I were talking with our friend Paul and offline about the AHL. I think that's the most exciting one to me, and because it, from what I've understood, and I haven't seen the actual CBA that they have ratified, but the reporting I've seen has said that one player can be designated by the NHL as a 19-year-old who is playing in juniors in the either the CHL, the OHL, the QMJHL, the WHL, that kind of stuff. Anything in the Canadian Hockey League juniors. You can designate one of those players when he's 19 to play in the AHL. And that is fantastic news because both of our teams have a player this season, this summer, this offseason, going into next year, that is way too good for junior hockey. Is just going to absolutely dominate like a man against boys. And
Well,
that will
I think
that
the
will stunt
thing,
their development.
yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't. It's not like we care that they're going to dominate the league or whatever.
No.
It's
That's what I'm
about.
saying is
It's not good for their development. They're not getting anything
correct.
out of it.
Correct. And this whole thing, look, you and I grew up in California. We have no allegiance to the CHL and the Canadian junior system. I've always thought it was stupid that the NHL would give a flying feces about the health of that league or the viability of that league. Once you're drafted, you're not a junior player anymore. You're a professional player, and you're 18. You're old enough to serve in the military. You're old enough to play in the AHL, in my opinion. So this whole thing of, oh, well, if he's not in the NHL, then he has to be returned to juniors for 2 full seasons is stupid. So I'm very happy to see this, and I wish it was applied immediately because Lord knows Beckett Seneca could use it this coming season for the Ducks. He's going to go back to juniors, and it's not going to help you to play against people that are not physically your match and are not competitive. So allowing one player per team to use this, I think, will be a great thing. It'll change the draft because teams can look at this as we can control this player's development after one season, and then we have him in the AHL, and then we control with our coaches, with our system, with our organization, and we can call him up if we need to for a game or two at a time. So I really love that rule, and I wish it was going into effect immediately.
Details about salaries coming out as far as league minimums and entry-level contracts, and all you need to know is it's going up every year. So the players will be making more money, and of course that goes hand in hand with the owners making more money. So right. The point is that the NHL financially appears to be heading in a very nice direction, which is good for everyone. There was one thing that I was caught by surprise by. I don't know if you saw this at all, but beginning in the 2026-27 season, players who have 0 games of NHL experience will be required to wear cut-resistant neck protection with a minimum score of A5. I don't know what that means, but so they are going to make the neck guard mandatory starting with the 2026-27 season for players that are entering then. So they're grandfathering it in. But that is something I was a little bit surprised at.
Yeah, which means that 15 to 20 years from now, we're going to be seeing the last of the players without the neck guard out on the ice. Right. And it'll look weird that that last guy, who was the last player without a visor?
Well, Jamie Benn is still playing without one. I think there's a couple of them. I think there's 2 or 3 guys that are still playing without the visor. Okay. I know Jamie Benn is one of them for sure.
Yeah, and the last player without a helmet at all was Craig McTavish, correct?
Right, correct.
So we always got those last holdouts of the adopting the new rule and the grandfathered in. So I'm happy to see that. Anything that prevents injuries, and that's an absolutely horrific injury. I mean, we're not talking about impacting the way you play, your visibility, your mobility, your anything. It's just simply protecting you from getting a horrific, life-threatening injury. So I'm all for that. You mentioned the state income tax and whether or not they will address that, and them saying it's not a problem now. I would like to see them address that because they certainly addressed the deferred payments that some teams were using to get around the state income tax problem. And we're seeing a lot of teams front load their contracts with signing bonuses so that they can the players don't have to pay road bonus, because you pay tax or road tax. You pay tax based on where you play the game. So even if you play in a state that has no state income tax, if you play a game on the road in a state that does, you pay the state income tax for that game. It's a very weird rule that way. So by front loading Mitch Marner's contract with $10 million signing bonus, that all goes under the Nevada state tax law, which is no state income tax. So his actual salary for this season may only be 1.5 million, and then half of that is his road games. So now you're talking 750,000, and of that, many of the road games will be in Florida or Tennessee or Texas, other states with no income tax. So you're talking now about 35 games probably where he's actually going to get taxed at most on $750,000. So that's another way to get around it. I would like to see him equal the playing field, but then that also comes into, it's a very tricky thing because of Canadian taxes, which are significantly higher than taxes in the United States, and certainly taxes in Texas or Florida. So finding a way to make it so that every player pays the same tax rate, I think would be a legal impossibility, just because the players would challenge it. I mean, I don't have to pay Canadian tax or whatever. The half the league would love it. The other half would hate it. So that's a tricky one. And I hope they find a way to close that, because I do think it is a factor. It would be for me. I mean, if I was a free agent, and we're talking literally millions of dollars difference between playing in city A and city B, if I'm a free agent and I'm up for the highest bidder, I'm going to city A because I can save $5 million over the course of my contract. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And so that's going to impact where players sign, where players re-sign, where players have on their no-trade list, et cetera, et cetera. And that needs to be addressed.
One other kind of league-wide news that came out was that the NHL draft we thought was going to be one and done with the decentralized draft. Not the case. 2/3 of the NHL teams voted to once again have the decentralized draft for next year. The NHL says they're looking to make adjustments in the format to make it more streamlined. But that prediction that I think a lot of us had, because the NHL draft that you and I were at was kind of a slog. It didn't seem like that's what they were intending it to be. But the people that are running the draft, the GMs and the scouting department, all those guys, apparently they liked it and they don't want to go back. So we're going to have the decentralized draft again for next year.
Yeah, and this is a financial situation exclusively. The only reason teams would vote for this is because they save money on not having to send their front office staff to a city for a week, basically, to stay in a hotel and pay for all their meals, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a lot of money, but these owners are cheap and they squeeze every nickel until the buffalo poops, and they get they don't pay for anything they don't have to. There was nobody at the draft that we talked to or we saw that said this was better than the way it used to be. Nobody preferred this. And I would say to the NHL, and I don't know where the draft is next year. I don't think they've announced that yet. But wherever it is, don't even let fans in the building. There's no point. It's an awful experience. You're sitting there for hours and there's nothing to do. There's no entertainment. They didn't have live entertainment. They didn't have live bands playing. We're just waiting for Gary Bettman to get up there and either announce a pick or call somebody up that will announce the pick. And then the player comes up there and we see 5 minutes of the player posing for pictures and talking via Skype to their GM and owner. It was awful. So I would say don't even have fans there. And I don't know why the players would go anymore at this point. I get the experience of it was special when you could go up and meet the owner of the team that just drafted you, the GM, maybe a player or two. When you're meeting an actor, I don't know that it has that same uniqueness. So I think we'll see less players. And I would say if you're a fan, especially if they're charging you like they did here in LA, $80-some to go see this, absolutely not. There are better ways to spend your $80.
Well, I think I would, be in favor of the players still getting to have that experience of going up and shaking the commissioner's hand and getting their jersey. I don't mind them letting people in, and if they want to check this out, but don't charge them for it. I'm not sure how you would go about, giving out free tickets for it. I'm sure there's some way you could do it, but yeah, I don't think
Just first
anyone
come,
needs.
first serve.
I don't think
Reserve the
anyone
ticket.
needs to be charged to go to that. And you
No.
would have, and you would, if it was free, I would imagine it would be uh, a packed house because people love free stuff.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that. By the way, you're right. I had not heard, and I looked it up. They have not announced where the NHL draft will be for 2026, but we'll
I
see
would
what changes
imagine
they make.
I would imagine it's got to be a tough one now because who wants it? The whole NHL doesn't show up. The media doesn't show up. It was a little bit of a boon for the city that hosted it because they got a lot of hotel rooms reserved. They got a lot of tourism coming into town. They got a lot of players, families, etc. Now, not so much. And the media was far less than we've seen in the past. In the past, I've seen pretty much every reporter we know and love and have followed over the years at the draft. I did not see that this year because why would they be there when the people they want to interview aren't going to be there? I want
Well,
to talk to the GM after the draft is over. I can do that on Skype just from home like they are.
well, I think some of them though were not in the same area that we were. I think some of them were down behind the stage in those areas, and then the rest of us were kind of up in the balcony area. So,
Well,
like Ellie,
I'm talking though like the Michael Russos of the world that cover the Minnesota Wild. He's always been at the draft. I've always seen him. I've seen national reporters from the Athletic and from the Hockey News and stuff like that. I saw none of them this year. So literally last year, I ran into all these people and was talking to them. Saw none of them this year. So and why would they? Like I said, if the only people you're going to get to talk to are the players, and those players are going to be available over remotely as well through each team, no reason to go. So it's a horrible decision to keep it decentralized. I don't know. I get why they're doing it because they're cheap, but my God, I mean, have some respect for the fan experience and the player experience at some level. And it's not that much money to multi-billionaires.
we had a few trades and a few signings to share. One of the more interesting ones was a player who has yet to play in the NHL. That would be forward Isaac Howard. He was not going to sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning for some reason, and he was going to leave college after this season and become a free agent. So the Lightning were obviously looking to try and get something from him. They trade him to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for forward Sam O'Reilly. So Isaac Howard, very good college prospect, now heading to Edmonton. Well, if he signs with them, but they now have his rights.
Yeah, and he's a forward, and he won the Hobie Baker as the best college hockey player in North America in America last year. So in college, so he is an excellent prospect. We see this every now and then. This is another loophole that I wish they had closed in the CBA. I don't care if you've played in college or Europe or juniors or the AHL. The team that drafted you should not lose your rights after 3 years just because of where you played in the situation. So we've seen this many times over the years now. The players that usually do this don't usually go on to great things, but Adam Fox did. He refused to sign with the Carolina Hurricanes, ended up with the New York Rangers, and is doing obviously very well. Norris Trophy winner, and on he goes. And Isaac Howard, I'm not sure what his beef was with the Lightning either, but he couldn't pick a better spot to go to than a team that has been to the Stanley Cup final twice in the last 2 years and has two of the best players in the world at forward that he could potentially be on the wing of in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So a great situation for him. Love the trade for Edmonton. They get a player that is NHL ready and is young and probably full of excitement to get on the NHL ice now. They get him for a guy that probably would never have had a big impact for them. And for Tampa, at least they got something. I get that. But hard to believe that was the best prospect they could get, because I'm sure there were a lot of teams looking to add Isaac Howard. Now, the problem was, would he sign with them? Or would he say, I'm not signing with you either. I'll wait another year and then become a free agent, control my own destiny. I have to think Edmonton did their due diligence before giving up a player in return, that they have pretty good assurances they will be able to sign him and get him on the ice.
I had actually kind of forgotten Ryan Reeves was still in the NHL, but he was traded to the San Jose Sharks from the Toronto Maple Leafs for defenseman Henry Thrun.
Henry Thrun, I believe it is.
Thrun?
Thrun. Okay. Yeah, he's a former Ducks prospect that was traded up to San Jose a few years ago. And good young, depth defenseman, not going to be anything special, but he's something. He can actually play some NHL minutes. I don't know that's true of Ryan Reeves anymore. Although for San Jose, why not? I guess they're still in a rebuild. And for what he is as a enforcer, protection for the young players, I guess. But it takes two to tango. If he's just going to get instigator penalties and roughing penalties, that's not going to serve you very well. I don't know of too many NHL players that are willing to drop the gloves with Ryan Reeves at this point. So not sure how effective he's going to be in his role. An interesting trade for San Jose, to be sure. I don't know quite what they're thinking in getting him, but their GM, Greer, is a guy from a different era of hockey, and he still probably believes there's a role for that. I don't. I wouldn't want him on my team. I'm glad the Ducks didn't trade for him, but one last season in the NHL for Ryan Reeves.
The Pittsburgh Penguins get defenseman Matthew Dumba from the Dallas Stars, along with a second-round pick in 2028 in exchange for defenseman Vladislav Kolchanyanuk, maybe. Yeah, that probably wasn't pronounced correctly, but I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
So I guess Pittsburgh, I don't know what they want Matt Dumba for, unless they're going to flip him, at the deadline for somebody who wants a experienced defenseman. The second-round pick, I guess I could see why they'd want that, but we'll see.
Yeah, salary dump for Dallas as they continue to try and get under the salary cap, but and find a way to retain Jason Robertson without having to lose him. I'm not sure what they want with him either. There's rumors that they're shopping Erik Karlsson, and so maybe that's a potential replacement for those minutes if they do have a deal for Karlsson somewhere around the league. But Pittsburgh's not putting a great product on the ice this coming season, and haven't made a lot of moves that inspire me to think that they'll be back in the playoff race this next season. I think they've got some great players. They're basically running an NHL hospice program, and it's not looking good for the next 5 years in Pittsburgh.
And the Vancouver Canucks traded goaltender Arturs Silovs to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Chase Stillman and a fourth-round pick in 2027.
I mean, depth in net is never a bad thing. So organizational depth. Obviously, they with Lankinen and Demko, no need for Silovs. So I get that from Vancouver's perspective, and for Pittsburgh, can't have enough depth, especially with the injury problems their goalies have had.
A few signings of note: the Philadelphia Flyers signed restricted free agent forward Cam York, 5-year deal, $25.75 million total, and he'll get $5.15 million per season. He's 24 years old.
If he continues to develop into a top four defenseman, as a solid top four defenseman, which I think he already is, but I'm saying if he continues to play at that level or even improves, this will be a bargain contract. When your salary cap is $110 million, which it will be in a couple of years, $5.1 million is absolutely nothing for a guy that can play 18 to 21 minutes a night and give you solid defense. So that's a great contract for Philadelphia.
Utah Mammoth signed restricted free agent forward Jack McBain, 5 years, $21.25 million total. He'll get $4.25 million per year. He's 25 years old.
And he's got a great name. We know that from the Simpsons action movie character, McBain. So if they're not using that as a on-screen display every time he scores a goal or has a big night, they're missing their opportunities.
Colorado Avalanche re-signed defenseman Josh Manson, 2 years, $7.9 million. He'll get $3.95 million per season. He's 33 years old.
We mentioned him last week as a guy that would be on the Ducks defense of teams of players that they drafted over the years. He's a depth defenseman at this point, but still a pretty good one with good experience.
And veteran forward Jeff Skinner, UFA, signs a 1-year, $3 million deal with the San Jose Sharks. He's 33 years old.
I liked the comment that I saw that Jeff Skinner finally got a taste of of playoff hockey and said, that's enough of that. I'm going to San Jose.
We talked earlier about college hockey. Gavin McKenna, the supposed number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, is going to play college hockey next year, and he has chosen Penn State as the place he will play next. And that we always have mentioned that former Fresno Falcons player and head coach Guy Godowski, now the head coach at Penn State. So I've always kind of kept an eye on that program, and he's getting a very good player, obviously, to play for the Nittany Lions next season.
Yeah, and that's if you have access to watching the Big Ten Network or maybe ESPN Plus that broadcasts some college hockey, it would be worth checking him out, especially if you're fan of a team that is not going to make the playoffs and is going to be in the draft lottery. This guy is allegedly pretty special and would be fun to see him developing his career in college and then see your team win the draft lottery and get to pick him first overall and then make the jump a year from now into the NHL.
A couple of players announcing their retirement, including 2-time Stanley Cup winner Tyler Johnson, 747 career games with the Lightning, Blackhawks, and Bruins. He played just 9 games last year for Boston, was an undrafted forward, 9 years in Tampa Bay, 589 games where he played the bulk of his career, including winning those 2 Stanley Cups with Tampa Bay. He finishes his career with 193 goals and 433 points. Tyler Johnson.
I've forgotten he played for Tampa Bay. I remember him with the Bruins primarily, and I'm sure he'll get a big send-off in Boston. But obviously a guy that made the most of his opportunity and proof that if you're undrafted, that is not the end of your hockey career. You go into camp and you prove your worth and make it impossible for them to cut you, make them find a spot for you. He did. He was a big part of those Stanley Cup teams and has earned his retirement. And I'm sure he's obviously part of hockey history because his name will be on the Stanley Cup for the rest of his life.
And veteran forward Riley Nash announcing his retirement after 12 years, 628 career games for him. Played for the Hurricanes, Blue Jackets, Bruins, Coyotes, Jets, Lightning, and last season played 1 game for the New York Rangers. He was a first-round pick, 21st overall by Edmonton in 2007. Finishes his career with 63 goals and 176 points. Riley Nash.
One of 2 Nashes to play for the New York Rangers. And
no relation.
No relation? No?
No relation.
There's no bridge that can connect them?
Well, nothing that is
Nash Bridges that's all I was going for.
You might, well, thank God I interrupted that then. Yeah, you may have to, I'm sure if you go back far enough, there's some connection.
There's a connecting branch. Yeah.
Yeah. But
kind of I mean, it's not an uncommon name in North America, but of course, Pluto Nash as well. I doubt they're related to him since he's fictional and black. But I don't know. We'd have to look back on it. How did we get on this? How did we get on Pluto Nash, Eddie? You always get us off topic.
Yes. Yeah. I'm the one who does that. Not you. Not at all. So that'll do it for the first period. Obviously not a lot of news, but we talked about the news that was there. Anything that I missed, anything else that you wanted to bring up that you saw in the past week in the NHL worth mentioning or discussing?
No, not that I saw. It was a quiet week. I think the entire NHL kind of takes a break, a breather, steps away a little bit after obviously a lot of work leading up to the draft and free agency. The front offices are very busy. And I think once that first wave is over, I think a lot of them step away for a little bit, take some time. And a lot of the media, national media, takes a break as well. So we're not getting as many reports from them because they're not trying to get clicks, views, and likes on their material either. So not a lot of news, but hopefully in the next week, we will have something big happen. And whatever happens in the next week, we'll have it on next week's show.
Yeah, that'll do it for our first period of the YouTube show. If you enjoyed what you're hearing, we do have actually a lot more to talk about coming up with our next 2 periods on the podcast. If you want to check that out, just search Puck Podcast and Apple Podcast, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. If you are listening already, to the podcast. The second and third periods are coming right up. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand, and we'll talk to you next time with another edition of the Puck Podcast.